Hi everyone, welcome back. This is part two of the episode 6 breakdown. So we're going to be picking up where we left off, which was at the fire pit with Ilya and Shane. They had a little bit of a moment together. Ilya really opened up about his past, and now we are moving on to the next great scene, which is the video game slash phone call scene.
I absolutely love this. And I love that we're still at the cottage and we're taking our time at the cottage with these two characters.
So we worked so hard to get to the cottage where we have to hang about for a little bit.
Right? And I've seen so many memes about I never leaving the cottage, and I don't know how we do that now that we're here.
Yeah, no, well, there's always a better story to come, so let that be your consolation prize for having to give up the cottage eventually.
2027 cannot come soon enough, season two.
2027, like I know they're taking their time and it's good fine, but oh God, that's so long. Do you remember they used to crack out a Grey's Anatomy season 24 episodes once a year without issue? Oh, take me back to those days, honestly.
Right? Yeah, the golden age of TV. But yeah, you were talking about the scene where we get the phone call.
Yes. Mm,
Now, I really, again, I love these moments where Ilya brings in the humor
yeah.
because they're playing this video game against each other, and Shane is trash talking in the most polite Canadian way possible.
Yeah,
Like, I'm gonna kill you, I'm gonna beat you. Like, it's just adorable.
yeah, he's so sweet in this scene, and you can see that you get the idea that maybe Shane doesn't get a lot of this. So they do genuinely seem to be enjoying each other's company. I think that's like such a nice touch to open the scene with as well. And then that joke where he is like, "My face is on the game." That was just great because obviously, if anyone plays like sports games on consoles or whatever, you do usually have the most famous player at that time on the sort of front cover of it. And the idea that it's Ilya for the hockey one is actually such a funny detail. But yeah, no, it's such a cute scene, and it's a nice sort of opener to get us into like the steamy stuff.
And you're so right, because when we think about two guys hanging out, like, I played video games with all my guy friends all the time, and I still do.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. I mean, I don't know. I think video games are just such a fun medium to share with your friends, and I like that they do now can express a friendship towards one another. Like they don't just need to be these secret lovers in the dark. Like they can, have fun together. They can hang out. They can chill. They can mess about and have that sort of. I think this is like one of the best things about um like being gay is that you're dating one of the guys. Like you're dating someone that usually shares all of your interests and like is happy to sit down with you and play video games for 4 hours and you can both chill out together. Like it's one of my favorite aspects of being gay. So I like that they get to have that experience of like being able to hang with one of the guys and it's just fun. So yeah, I like that element of it. It's really fun. It's a nice little touch. So it is.
Definitely, and I don't know whether this scene is in the book, but for me, what this represented is this. You can see this is written from a male perspective as well. So Jacob Jenny wrote this,
Yeah.
I believe. There was something about the way these two characters are just hanging out, doing very guy normal things.
Yeah, exactly. It's just yeah, I think it's just been delivered in a way that feels quite realistic because I was sort of getting that feel that experience of like, oh, it's like being with your best friend. It's like hanging out together. They're just like having fun. They're giving each other shit about the game, and Shane is trying to trash talk, which we know that he's incapable of doing effectively. So yeah, no, I just like the details in it. I think it's just such a fun little add-on to start off the sort of scene with. Also, this is in the book as well. This phone call is in the book, and it's played very well in that as well. So yeah, I was actually looking forward to this. I was looking forward to seeing how they would sort of handle this sort of scene. I think they've done it really well.
And you really see this playful side of Ilya coming out, where Shane's asking him, "Don't do that," and Ilya's like, "Well, if you get hard, then I'll stop, but I mean, look at what's happening here. And there's this sort of the look that Connor Story gives as an actor, and the hand, and the way the hand crawls down the thigh, and it's just so playfully done, but it's also, it adds that it's quite a scene, let's
Yeah,
be
yeah. I mean,
honest.
it's a saucy scene, like, but I think we're trying to make up for the fact that we've had quite a lot of heavy content in this episode so far. There's been a lot of focus on the emotional attachment, and you know, the show is kind of building that reputation of being saucy in a lot of ways, and for really showing that sort of real, raw, and upfront sex. And obviously, you're going to need to put in some. It's the last episode, and you may as well make it as fun as you can. That seems to be the general idea behind this, and you sort of you can see also a change in Shane and how much he's willing to risk or allow Ilya to push him to risk, because Shane's on a phone call with his best friend at this point, and he is allowing Ilya to keep going. So he's like, no, it's a bad idea. Stop. Like completely half-hearted, not at all, obviously. But um, then just to have the phone call going on while Ilya's doing this to him, it adds a little bit of danger into their dynamic as well. And I think Shane really likes that. He likes the sort of thrill of it as well. It's like, I can't believe he did that. That was sort of crazy. But it's also Ilya learning to like push Shane's boundaries a little bit. Like he's just sort of subtly just giving him little shoves every now and again. And I think this is one of them as well. I think that's what this phone call is for him, is trying to push him a little bit more out of his comfort zone to be like, "Oh, come on, let's try this. We're not gonna get caught. It's fine." Um, which is the beginning of a trend, I think, for the next book where bigger risks have to be taken for them to maintain their relationship. So yeah, it's definitely the start of a bigger element that will continue to play out as their story continues as well.
I like that you talked about sort of Shane taking more risk and and Ilya pushing him to take those risks, because for Shane, he says like, "Why was that so hot?" And Ilya's response is like, "Because you like to be bad."
Yeah.
And there is a little bit of Shane that wants to be the bad boy, because he's not. Like, sweet baby Shane is
No,
not a bad
no.
boy.
Sweet innocent child. Well, he
And
just look at his upbringing, just look at the way he goes on, the way he behaves, the way he's structured his life. He's like, everything is by the book, everything is exactly how it's supposed to be. There's no rebellion. He can't even challenge his parents. He never says no. He just agrees to everything and does anything that he's told. So for him to do something a little risque, something that was maybe a bit naughty, then he's gonna get a thrill out of that. And I think literally that is their whole relationship. That's how this thing starts. I think Shane is looking for a little bit of rebellion, and he finds it in Ilya, who is like the stereotypical bad boy sleeps around. And then it just turns into something completely different and totally out of his control. Like I'm very interested to see like Shane's thoughts, like what's happening in his head with all this as well, because what started off as like a guy who never does anything wrong, never takes any risks, he's doing something that he perceives to be like morally wrong, and it's now resulting in consequences that he's not intended. And I think this is why later in this episode he has a bit of a breakdown when he's discovered, is because like his morality and his moral world is like being called into question by everything that's going on, and he's been caught out and he's terrified of consequence. So all of this stuff is just sort of very subtly being played out in the background while you're picking it up as the viewer, and you're seeing the change in the emotion and the story and how everything is being sort of shown to us. And all of this is playing in the background while Shane is going through this huge big journey of self-discovery and redrawing of what he knows and what he feels is moral and right and principled. So yeah, there's so much to this scene, and simply just seems to be a phone call with a blowjob in
I know, who thought a blowjob would create 7 minutes of discussion? Because, I mean,
it.
7 minutes is the length of a porn movie, really. But when we think about, you talked about the shift, and there is this shift, and you can see the shift within Shane, but it also shifts the dynamic between both of them, because Shane's response is very much, this isn't what this is. You
Mhm.
know, maybe at first it was like this bad boy thing or this bad thing, but not now, and it hasn't been like
Yeah,
that for a
yeah,
long time. And you get this acknowledgement. Finally, these two guys are being honest and direct and communicating. We've been asking them to communicate for 8 years,
yeah.
and now they're actually doing it. And I thought it was really interesting how Ilya responds to this. So when he says like it's not been like that for a long time between us, he's like, "Oh, so you love Hayden now?" This is Ilya really pushing. I almost think Ilya wanted to say "I love you" way back when,
Oh, yeah.
and he's just finding ways to
Mhm.
introduce it or to push it. And you're rightfully so. You talked about Ilya sort of pushing those boundaries a little, letting Shane get comfortable, and then pushing them again. I think this is what he does here.
Yeah, 100%. Because I think Ilya knows that Shane perceived him to be like that in the beginning of their relationship. And so I think that's why he's been so hesitant to be the one to speak out because, you know, ultimately it almost seems like it has to come from Shane. Like these changes, like this admitting and the changing of the relationship and the dynamic sort of has to come from Shane because Ilya is sort of is who he is. And he needs someone to look past the bad boy image to see what's underneath. Because he's going to struggle to do it on his own because his defenses are up. Given his past, he is really, really scared to express who he truly is as a person in a very like public way for somebody to see. And so it's almost up to Shane to kind of chase after that element of it to go, actually, I'm seeing behind the bad boy and I like it. So yeah, I think that's also why in the previous episode in the hotel scene, Ilya, when Shane says, I really like you, and he's like, no, you don't. He's like, no, I really do. I think that is like Shane saying to Ilya, I like the person that's behind you, not just the bad boy front. Like, I like that person. And Ilya can't believe it. He's like, no, you don't. You don't like that person. You like the bad boy. It's like, no, I like you. And that's a big moment for them. And I think it sort of carries throughout the rest of the episode, the number 5 episode and then number 6 episode. But yeah, it's the change in their dynamic is subtle, but you can definitely see it and you can see the building blocks that brought it to fruition. And yeah, that's just good writing.
Yeah, and pacing. We didn't get it all at once. We
Exactly.
couldn't have it all at once. It wouldn't be believable.
Exactly. That's, I mean, why does a show work so well? Because they are together from the very start, but you know, sex is fun, but meaning comes from the emotion, it comes from the romantic dynamic, it comes from longing and wanting someone for who they are. It's like what everyone dreams of. Everyone dreams of being loved and accepted by a person for exactly who they are. I mean, it's what everyone craves. It's your whole biology is built around that idea. When you go out to a club or you go out and you think of dating or anything like that, that's your ultimate goal. Your ultimate goal is to be seen by someone who loves and appreciates you, despite the fact that you might have flaws that even you yourself don't like. Um, so yeah, like the change in the boys is just it's done in a very subtle way, but in a really satisfying way for the audience to really cling to because it feels real. It's a real build up. It's they're getting to know one another. They're seeing behind the layers. They're seeing each other's faults and what makes them so great, and they're learning to accept that. Yeah, I actually really love that about you. Like I love you the way you are, and that's huge. It's something you don't really try to let go or get away from in life. So yeah, everyone buys into the story because that's ultimately what we're all after.
And you were talking about how sort of Ilya's pushing and Shane just needs a little bit more time to catch up in a way. And again, here we see this in this next scene where, they're playing football out in the garden and Ilya brings up the passport for the first time, I think.
Yeah.
And he brings up, moving to Canada and definitely not playing for Montreal. Although, would it be the worst thing in the world if they played on the same team?
Like they said at the All Stars, like they are incredible together when they're playing. So, it wouldn't be a bad idea. I'm not gonna say anything.
Okay, say less,
Say
Declan.
less.
But he talks about moving and playing in a Canadian team to be nearer to each other, kind of thing. But he doesn't say that. What he's saying actually is, I need to not have a Russian passport, so I'm going to move to Canada. So that's what he's saying. The subtext is, I want to be near to you. I don't want to see you 3 or 4 times a year if we're
Yeah,
lucky.
yeah. It's crazy how even now they are dancing around each other like, just like, obviously it's great TV, but their inability to be direct with one another um in situations like this, like I think it's because Ilya is risking a lot, so he isn't saying this. Like he clearly fears the rejection, which is why he's going about it in this sort of passive way in which we're sort of getting hints and suggestions, and he sort of lets Shane come to his own conclusions and he lets him infer what he wants from it. But the thing is, when you don't communicate directly, you leave a lot open to interpretation, which means you risk not communicating the correct thing. And I think that's basically what happens. And then the following scene, then when they're on the sofa. But
Mm.
yeah, it's no coincidence that Ilya is taking this very roundabout approach to this because he's afraid that if he asks directly, that he'll be rejected.
Yeah,
Mhm.
definitely. And you're right. Ilya is scared of this rejection. I mean, anyone would be, right? Like, they've got 2 weeks together, and if he says the wrong thing now, it could be a really awkward week and a half.
Or it would just be over. And yeah,
Right?
like the whole thing is just called off because if Shane's not willing to even allow Ilya to make sacrifices to make it work, then Shane is clearly not going to sacrifice any of himself in order to make it work. So it would be sort of like a no go. So it would. So there's a lot there. Like I think, given Ilya's past, the fact that he has no family, that he's taken a massive risk, that he's in love with this guy, his potential to be hurt is probably higher now than it has been for a very, very long time. Like he does not open up to people, so he doesn't, and he's doing it with Shane, and he's putting himself out there. He's taking a risk. He's in love with this guy. This guy has his heart in his hand, and he's afraid of like basically letting him know that he has his heart in his hand in case he crushes it. And that seems to be his thought process whenever he's dancing around this sort of big issue like he is.
And you can see that dance again in this scene where they're both on the couch laying down, and he says, I could marry Svetlana. She has an
Oh
American passport.
God.
And you can see why Ilya is asking. Like, he wants, the big grand gesture, and Shane isn't giving it to him because Shane's eyes are welling up with tears because he wants to kill him for suggesting that Ilya could marry Svetlana
Yeah,
for a
yeah.
passport.
Um, this is the thing. Shane struggles to read between the lines. So he does. Like this approach of Ilias does not work for people like Shane. Shane needs to sort of be
Mm,
told what what you want. But that requires it's too hard for Ilya at this point in time. So he's trying to do it in this roundabout way, which, like I said before, opens it up to interpretation. So what Shane is getting from it is that um oh, you want to marry Svetlana? You don't want to marry me? Like why not you why don't you want to marry me? Like, do you not see that for us? So like so you're gonna do that for citizenship? Like, does that mean you're gonna be together? Like, what does this mean? And you can sort of see why he's getting upset because in his head he's like, he's not fully with me. He doesn't want to marry me. He doesn't want to do all these things with me, these big milestones. Like, you want to do them with somebody else. Like, how could you say that? Like, I'm here like nearly in tears because you said that. Um, and it takes Shane then to have the bravery to go, don't marry her. That's Shane
yeah.
saying to Ilya, please don't. Shane is being more upfront in this at this point in time, and he's giving Ilya the confirmation that he needs that. Maybe I don't need to do that then. Maybe I can do it with him at some point, or we'll find another way.
Mm, mm, yeah. And it's interesting because I had a slightly different take on that when I was watching this scene,
Mm,
because Shane asked Ilya, but you like women as well. And so for me, I thought, is Shane then questioning, is Ilya, obviously Ilya is into Shane, that's without a
hmm
doubt. But is there an ideal kind of life that Ilya is imagining?
Mhm.
For example, does Shane think Ilya wants to settle down with a woman like Svetlana, even if it's not Svetlana? Does he want that sort of traditional type of life that is not with Shane, for example?
Yeah,
And so it almost feels like there's this, probing from Ilya, like, hey, are we in? And Shane is like, are you out? And they're having almost two different monologues
yeah,
at the
there's
same time.
layers.
And not,
Mm. Mm.
but that monologue isn't together, it's separate. And so their thought process almost feel like they're diverging in a path in a way. And yeah, you get that sort of where they diverge, they come back together because Ilya then says, like, he says something along like I don't want that problem to ever go away or something like that.
Yeah, it's like the problem is that I'm in love with this guy. He doesn't say in love, but like he is obsessed with this guy and he can't stop thinking about this guy. And so that's a problem I hope never goes away. Something along those
That's
lines.
it.
But yeah, that's the general gist of it. Um, and it's sort of Ilya assuaging his fears, being like, I'm not going to do that. Don't worry about that. I'm not going to do that. I just put it out there. I need to know where we stand. I'm in. I'm in. And as soon as Shane gets that off him, he's then like kind of plans
He changes.
completely. Yeah, his strategy completely changes, and so he goes from like a passive actor in this whole thing to right, time to take charge. Let's see how I'm going to make our future happen. And it's one of
Mhm.
his best and strongest qualities that he can do that, and it's also so typically him. That he is like the problem solver. Like he's in it. He's trying to figure out how to solve it, and he's doing it all for Ilya, and that's sweet.
Well, he is Mama Yuna's
Oh,
child, let's be honest. Like, she can problem solve and work a PR, thing better than, Kerry Washington in Scandal, I think. Olivia Pope level kind of PR.
yeah.
But I like the language they use here in this scene where they talk about it being a problem, and it almost casts me back to episode 4 with Rose about how they talk about, your sexuality isn't a problem, and I just loved this mirroring and this bringing this problem theme back,
Mhm.
because then not only is he getting it from Rose, like, this is not a problem, but he's also getting it from Ilya, like, this is not a problem I ever want to go away.
Yeah. It's not something I want to fix. Yeah, being obsessed with you, which is
It
objectively just a very romantic thing to say to somebody. So
Right, and to me, this almost reminded me of Brokeback Mountain when Jack and Ennis are on the mountain having this big old argument, and you get that very famous line like, "I can't quit you."
yeah, I wish I could
And
quit
this
you.
is what the sentiment of this comes out in here. Not the way they've done it, of course, because it's a different
Yeah,
scenario, but this I can't live without you.
yeah.
I'm in.
Yeah, that's the thing, yeah. And that's what makes the dynamic so difficult is now that the both of them are so attached, like they still have to deal with the realities of their lives. And I think it's important that Ilya does bring it up because this is huge. The two of them are like all over each other. They are in love with one another, like they're enjoying each other's company. It's very domestic and it's working for both of them. They both love this time that they're having together. And that is all the more scarier because it's like, how do we get more of this? We're gonna want more of this. Like what how do we spend more time together? Like how do we make this work? And yeah, it leads to this conversation which is very emotional and um, you know, is done in this very roundabout way that then has to come to a close by them actually being upfront and honest with each other about it. Um, yeah, there's a lot of growth in this in their relationship, just told through these past few scenes. Yeah, it just really works, and it works for taking us into like the high drama of the episode. Then, like the the discovery, the dad walking in.
Yeah, and even before we get David walking in, like you were talking about Shane literally being up all night and, waking Ilya up and like, right, this is the plan. This is what we're going to do. We're going to start the charity. You're going to move up to Canada. We're going to be 2 hours apart. If people see us, it's going to be okay because it's part of the charity, and we're going to shed this rival image. And it took me this long to realize, oh, people outside still view them as rivals because we spent so much time in this bubble between the two of them. I forgot they were rivals.
Yeah, that's the thing. No, I think that's something that maybe the book does a bit better, is that you can sort of, it's more clear that the public view them as like these rival players who don't really like each other. Um, but obviously we get to see them together and like, oh my God, these guys are in love and this. So we don't get to see as much of that sort of element of things. Um, but yeah, it's a small point, but it does mean that whenever it comes to this conversation where they're like, "Oh, we need to like scrub the rival image completely," um, yeah, it sort of affects that a little bit, but not enough to really overly complain about it, to be honest. But yeah, it is just a small wee
Yeah.
detail, but I'm glad you picked it up because it is true. Yeah, you don't really get a full idea of how like huge their rivalry is, from the show, but you sort of get a sense of it more in the book.
This is like Britney versus Christina back in the early 2000s. Like, you just forget how much they were pitched against
The
each other
tabloid media.
wrongfully. Wrongfully, I have to. Yeah,
Hmm.
exactly. And the theme that comes up in this conversation when they're sort of when in the middle of the night for them is that of retirement. So, and I want to get your take on this because Shane says something along the lines like, and then we can be together when we retire. And this theme of retirement isn't the first time we've heard it, right?
No.
We see this with Kip and Scott when Scott tells Kip, like, maybe in a few years when I retire, and that's when Kip sort of really pulls back, pushes the drink away, and he's out. And I'm thinking about this theme because it almost represents this when we're old and we're done playing and we don't have any obligations to anyone, or when we've made our money and we can just leave and not bother with anybody. I wanted to get what your take on that was because I have so much more to say about retirement.
It's kind of like wishing away your life to get to the good part, which I think we are honestly just. No, I'm going to get into a whole political rant here, so be careful and tell me to shut up if you want me to shut up. But we are hardwired to believe that we shouldn't enjoy our lives until we're in our like late 60s, whenever most of our life is done. And the only reason why you're taught to believe that is because people want you to work more. They want to exploit you more. They want to make more money off you. They want you to be the little worker ant that you are and to only work and make them as much money as possible. And you sacrifice so much in that. You give up so many experiences. You give up time with family and with friends, because you will not get that time back. You can make as much money as you want in the future. You will not get the time back that you spent with your family. So yeah, just a little aside there. But this is the same thing. It's the same idea. These guys um, have to wish away their youth just for the chance to be together, to finally enjoy their lives together. Why should you have to do that? Like, why should you be forced into that position? That's not fair. And it's immoral as well. Like, why should you have to waste these precious years with the person that you love, all just to appease a wider audience? Like, to appease people that don't give a shit about you, who will forget that you exist every time you skate off the ice. Like, it's just, yeah, an interesting theme for you to bring up because I do have like strong thoughts on it. But yeah, in the context of the show, it's also just a similar dynamic. It's trying to wish away your life so that you can finally get to the good part.
I'm so glad you said that because I feel like we're on the same page on that. And we did not discuss this
No,
beforehand. So it just shows how closely our thoughts are aligning because you're right. Retirement for people outside of the show, so us as people, is the end of something. It's the end of your life. It's almost like you said, wishing time away, and it's incredibly sad because we are programmed into it in a way. In the same way that they are being programmed into thinking they can only come out when they retire. And so there are so many parallels to us as viewers watching this. And in a way, it reminds me, as you're talking, like how people wish away the week. In a way, it's like Monday to Friday, can't do anything. Right. Saturday, Sunday, that's when I'm going to program myself. That's when I'm going to have my time, when I'm going to have the fun time. And I really jar with that kind of thinking because I wasn't brought up in the UK. And so when I came here and I like came across this, I was like, but what? So nobody does anything in the middle of the week? That's 5 days of places you can go, people you can meet, dinners you can have,
Yeah.
and I get it. I get why that is the case, but there is this wishing things away.
Yeah.
And we've already seen them quote unquote waste the last 8 years worrying about
Yeah.
this.
100%. Like they could have been spending this time together. They could have been building a family, building a relationship. They would have, it's never too late to start, of course, but you can't help but grieve the lost time. It's sad. So it is. And I hate the idea of, even myself, like in 20, 30 years time, wishing that I had done things differently because I wasted so much time or so much of my life doing things I didn't want to do, which, you know, is what I'm trying to avoid doing now. I've switched careers. I'm moving towards a different career path entirely. We saw one that I find more fulfilling and that I find more purpose and flexibility with. Um, so I'm very conscious of that idea, and I do think it's implemented well in the show. Like someone that has a healthy mindset will not deal with this kind of crap, which is what happens with Scott and Kip. Kip hears that and he goes, "No, I like you. I actually love you, but I am not willing to waste years and years of my life waiting for you, missing out on living, all just so that you can keep this image of yourself for your career. No, I'm not doing that." Whereas Shane and Ilya have sort of hardwired it into themselves and hardwired it into the relationship already. Like they're years in at this point. Like to them, they've created like a a situation where it's been acceptable, but it's becoming less and less acceptable as time goes on. The feelings have gotten bigger. They are now being as open and as emotionally vulnerable as Scott and Kip were from the beginning. And now they're going to be faced with the same sort of issues. Like, I don't want to wait for you to retire for me to be with you. Like, how fucking sad is that? So, yeah, it's a big obstacle. It's a big issue. And I'm glad that they bring it up now, especially in this season, because those kind of themes, like the themes of, you know, wasting time and not being together fully in the way that they care, like those are big themes that are going to be introduced in the next book as well. I don't think that's too much of a spoiler. I think that's obvious that's going to have to be a thing. So yeah, yeah, very, very interesting you brought that up.
And I think for me, what this serves as, it's a catalyst now for, because then we get Ilya saying, I love you. And this is the first time that they've said this to each other. And I thought it was really interesting how Ilya says this in Russian twice. I mean, he's nuzzled up against Shane's neck, but he says it twice before he then says it in
Yeah.
English. And then Shane has that
Hmm.
realization.
Yeah. Yeah. Um, and it'd be interesting to know if Shane recognizes what he said from the phone conversation they had when he was in Russia. I think
Yeah.
that would that would be a really cute detail. I don't remember if that is a thing in the book, but yeah, doesn't matter. Either way, it's such a sweet moment, and it's such a like physical representation of Ilya opening himself up fully to Shane. It's like he's the little barrier there. He's still saying it in Russian. He's saying it in Russian, and then it's English. He's fully opened himself up at this point. Like, and you'll notice that from this point on, Ilya is a lot more direct about them in their interactions. So they are. He is
Yeah.
like, I've done it. I'm opened up. Now you got me, and I'm just gonna be me. And it comes across in the way that his behavior adjusts in the next scenes. Like he's not quite the
Yeah.
same Elliot. He's still funny. He's still a little bit cheeky, but he's a lot more forthcoming with his feelings and what he's thinking and believing. So Yeah, a really, really nice little detail out of them.
And even his body language changes very subtly. Like, even in that scene, Ilya almost, when Shane says it back to him, he collapses on him. It's like he's been holding him
Yeah.
so
Hmm.
much in, and he gets his affirmation, like, oh, he loves me back. And he just lets go.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I thought that was really beautifully done
Hmm.
in that
Yeah.
scene.
That emotional catharsis is finally happens.
Yeah, and I wonder if this is the first time someone has told Ilya that he is loved apart from Svetlana since Ilya's mum has died, for example. I can't imagine a lot of people saying that to him.
Yeah. I mean, his dad is his dad. His brother hates him, actively hates him. Like that's hate is the opposite of love. So apart from Svetlana, sort of that familial love, that friendship love, which is a very important love in itself, and it's never ever to be underestimated. Um, Having someone new that doesn't know him get to know him from very scratch all the way to the end, to every little crevice of his life, to then after all of it say I love you. Again, it's the acceptance. It's that need for someone to accept who we are in our entirety, and love them for you, like regardless of it. So yeah, beautiful
Yeah.
moment.
I wanted to get your take on when Shane asks Ilya, does it fucking kill you too? And then Ilya responds, not anymore. I have mixed thoughts about this, but I wanted to get what your take on that was.
I think at this moment in time, if Shane says, "Do you want to come out to everybody?" Elliot would say yes. He has gotten the one thing that he wants. He has it. He doesn't care about anything else. I think he would drop hockey at that moment in time if he thought he could be with Shane forever. That is all he wants. Ilya's goal in life is to be loved, wanted, and loved and cared for. And he loves hockey. He loves to win, but this is more important to him. Whereas with Shane, he's still torn. He is 100%. He's in love with Ilya, but is that love stronger than his love for hockey and his love for the way that his life is, and for the quiet that he has and the peace? He's still fighting that argument. He's still fighting that himself. I think that's what it means. Like, does it kill you too? Does it kill you to be so torn up about this, to not know what you want, and to be torn between two loves? No, because I only love one thing. I love one thing more than anything else, and that's you. So I do think Ilya loves Shane more than Shane loves Ilya. Not like by a huge margin. Yeah, it's it's telling. So it is of where Shane's head is right now. Shane isn't fully ready for all this.
No, Ilya's a couple of steps ahead, and he's just patiently waiting. He's like, he'll catch up. He just needs some time,
Hmm.
and that's okay.
Yeah.
And that's what love is. Love is patience and it's kindness. And I'm going to start quoting A Walk to Remember here because that's what they say in that movie. Um, but yeah, I won't. I won't. And so we talked a little bit about the spiciness of this episode.
Hmm.
You know, with the call to Hayden and then the blowjob scene, and then I thought it was really interesting how immediately after this "I love you" declaration, we get a sex scene
Hmm.
after this, and you can see a lot. Like, I'm
Yeah.
not complaining. And again, Charlotte Hunter or Jacob Tierney really love this recovery position that they have some of the
Yeah.
guys in because you can see lines so beautifully.
Hmm.
But like, good lord, when Shane puts his thumb in Ilya's mouth, like I'm like, oh, I could just.
That's the home for you, did it?
Oh my goodness, are you kidding me? Like, and then he's like, just fuck me. And I'm like, wasn't he already doing that?
Yeah. Yeah. It's again, I think they're trying to find a balance, but also it's now become an expression of their love. So it is. It's become something different. It's a different meaning now. So it does than just a quick fuck, just to feel good for a bit. I think that's what that is. That's the final step of like when we're being intimate, it's more than just physical now. It's emotional intimacy. It's the whole package. This is the dream. This is the best kind of sex that you can have with someone that you are head over heels in love with and that you feel safe and intimate with. So yeah, I think that's why that's in there.
And without being cheesy, it's this is now them making love.
Yeah.
They're not just having
Yeah.
sex anymore.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. It's the more like upfront way of showing it, so it is. So yeah,
But it is heated rivalry, and we still have to get like a little titty grab and a
exactly.
thumb in the
You gotta get a
mouth
little app, like obviously
and a
it's heated
kiss of the
rivalry.
nipple. Like, keep giving that to us because they know their demographic. And what was really interesting about the post sex scene is you get this scene at the lake, right? And throughout this whole episode, the scenes have felt quite short to me. Like they're a minute or less. And especially, when we contrast these to the previous scenes in previous episodes, they feel like they're longer or there's a lot more dialogue for some
Hmm.
reason. And I feel like for me, what that does, it sort of portrays what happens when we get these characters alone. It's a series of just normal, mundane looking
Yeah.
things. This is them being in an actual relationship now. There's no hyper arousal. There's no sympathetic response because they've only got an hour to, have sex and one's got to leave the room. There's no flashes. There's no big explosions. And to me, this episode almost feels like a collection of quiet moments.
Yeah, yeah, it does. It feels like an indie art film. That's kind of what it's like. It's like a glimpse into someone's life. It's a slice of life. So it is. That's kind of what you're getting, but with a very particular theme of a relationship trying to blossom, but is restrained as a result of sexuality. That seems to be the general sort of, I don't know, like tone of the whole thing. Like you get these very artistic looking shots, like when they're out in the lake, that it's like darkly saturated and it's quite intimate and they're very hidden and um Shane is out of the water observing Ilya, just admiring, and Ilya is being free and like I think that's a good metaphor as well for where they're sort of with it with this whole thing, like where they're sitting with it. Shane still feels a little bit alone in it. He still feels a bit removed from the situation. He's afraid to jump in so far. Like he's admitted his love, and that's very true. But Ilya's the one that's swimming freely, and he's enjoying the water, and he's not being restricted, and he's not in this cold, isolated place. Um, so yeah, there's the contrast there as well. Like everything is quite artistically done, and it's told in a very art house sort of way. And I just really I think it's a really interesting stylistic choice, and it's a good way of communicating changes in their relationship and the dynamic. So yeah, the whole thing just sort of works for me. I think this episode is so good. It's just really good TV.
Yeah, good Lord, Declan, you're good, because I didn't even think about that. And you can do this without notes. I hate you so much. Um, so in my head, with my notes, what I had was, oh, Ilya's playing mermaids. How fun is that?
I mean, but he's having fun. He's free. He's free to be who he is at this point in time, and he feels safe. And while it's all secluded and dark and it's hidden, you know, he's the one that has the freedom of movement. He looks relaxed. He's fine. Shane is the one that's tied up. He's cold. Yeah, he looks
Yeah,
isolated. Um,
yeah.
yeah, it's
And Ilya is playful. He's like, gimme kiss. There's this cuteness aggression to it where you want to like bite the cheeks of a baby kind of thing.
yeah, exactly. Like,
And
yeah, go ahead.
I I wonder if you can talk about this scene because this is different from the books from what I've been told through TikTok. So I believe that in the books they're actually on a dock.
Yes, they're on a dock. That's right. And they're actually in the water together. So they are, and they're being playful and just being themselves and messing about and more of that sort of like guy friend sort of we're just chilling, we're having fun. It's when they get out then and they then kiss on the dock and then that's when the father sort of sees them through the glass. So it is so that's when that all kicks off. So again. we're kind of running over here, so we're going to divide this again. So this is going to be part two. There, I'm so sorry. There's so much content for us to talk about. We have been going at it for hours at this point. So yeah, we're going to stop here for this one. We'll meet you again in part three, and yeah, we'll pick up where we left off there.